Every woman wants to feel loved, valued, and appreciated in a relationship. While gifts, compliments, and grand gestures can be beautiful, there is one powerful boundary that often determines whether a relationship grows stronger or slowly falls apart. It's not about control, manipulation, or playing games. It's about self-respect. When a woman knows her worth and sets healthy boundaries, she teaches people how to treat her. The right man won't be intimidated by that boundary. He'll respect it, admire it, and work harder to keep her in his life. Love has a beautiful way of making us feel seen, valued, and connected. When we care deeply about someone, it's natural to want the relationship to work. We become willing to compromise, forgive mistakes, and support the person we love through difficult times. These things are part of a healthy relationship. But there is a line that should never be crossed, and that line is your self-respect. The moment love starts demanding your dignity as a sacrifice, something is wrong. Many women find themselves in situations where they slowly begin to accept behavior they once promised themselves they would never tolerate. It rarely happens overnight. It starts with small disappointments. A broken promise here, a disrespectful comment there, a moment of neglect that gets excused because he's going through a lot right now. At first, it seems harmless. You tell yourself that nobody is perfect and every relationship has challenges. While that is true, repeatedly excusing behavior that hurts you can slowly chip away at your confidence and sense of worth. One of the biggest mistakes people make is confusing love with endurance. They believe that the more pain they can tolerate, the stronger their love must be. But real love is not measured by how much disrespect you can survive. It is measured by how much mutual care, trust, and respect exists between two people. If you constantly have to ignore your feelings, lower your standards, or stay silent about things that hurt you, you are not protecting the relationship. You are losing pieces of yourself. Self-respect means recognizing that your feelings matter. It means understanding that your time, your energy, and your emotional well-being have value. It is the quiet confidence that tells you that you deserve honesty, kindness, and consideration. When you have self-respect, you stop begging people to treat you right because you know that basic respect should never have to be negotiated. Sometimes women stay in painful situations because they fear being alone. The thought of starting over can feel overwhelming. There is comfort in familiarity, even when that familiarity brings sadness. But staying in a relationship where you are constantly disrespected creates a loneliness that is far deeper than being single. There is a special kind of pain that comes from sitting next to someone who claims to love you while making you feel unimportant. No relationship should make you question your worth every day. A woman who values herself understands that being chosen by someone is not the ultimate prize. The real prize is being in a relationship where she feels safe, appreciated, and respected. She does not measure her value by whether someone stays or leaves. Her value was never dependent on another person's decision. It existed long before they arrived, and it will remain long after they are gone. This doesn't mean becoming cold, defensive, or unwilling to compromise. Self-respect and kindness can exist together. You can have a big heart while still maintaining strong standards. You can love deeply while refusing to accept treatment that damages your spirit. In fact, the strongest women are often the most compassionate because they understand that protecting their peace is not selfish, it's necessary. There will be moments when standing up for yourself feels uncomfortable. You may worry that speaking your truth will cause conflict. You may fear that setting a boundary will push someone away. But the reality is that people who genuinely care about you will not leave simply because you ask to be treated with respect. Healthy people appreciate honesty. They want to know what hurts you, what matters to you, and how they can contribute to a stronger relationship. When someone repeatedly ignores your boundaries, dismisses your feelings, or makes you feel guilty for expecting basic respect, pay attention. Actions reveal character more clearly than words ever will. Anyone can say they love you. Anyone can make promises during a good moment. The real question is whether their behavior consistently matches their words. Love without respect eventually becomes exhausting because it forces one person to carry all the emotional weight. The strongest thing a woman can do is refuse to abandon herself for the sake of keeping someone else comfortable. She does not shrink her voice to avoid arguments. She does not pretend everything is fine when it isn't. She does not sacrifice her mental and emotional health just to keep a relationship alive. She understands that a relationship built on the loss of self-respect is standing on a weak foundation. The truth is, the right person will never require you to become less of yourself in order to be loved. They will appreciate your standards because those standards reflect the value you place on your life. They will respect your boundaries because they respect you. And they will never ask you to trade your dignity for their affection. At the end of the day, love should feel like a partnership, not a constant battle for your worth. The moment you realize that your self-respect is non-negotiable, everything changes. You stop settling for crumbs when you deserve a full meal. You stop chasing people who are comfortable giving the bare minimum. Most importantly, you begin choosing yourself. And that decision has the power to transform every relationship you will ever have. Because when a woman refuses to let love cost her self-respect, she teaches the world exactly how she deserves to be treated. Many people hear the word boundary and immediately think about distance, walls, or restrictions. They imagine boundaries as something that pushes people away or creates tension in relationships. But the truth is exactly the opposite. Healthy boundaries are not designed to separate people. They are designed to create respect. They help both individuals understand each other's needs, values, and expectations. Without boundaries, relationships often become confusing, frustrating, and emotionally draining. With boundaries, relationships have a chance to grow on a foundation of mutual understanding. A boundary is simply a clear statement of what you need in order to feel respected and emotionally safe. It is not a threat. It is not a punishment. It is not an attempt to control another person. It is a way of communicating your standards and protecting your well-being. Every healthy relationship, whether romantic, family-based, or friendship, depends on people knowing where those boundaries exist. Many women struggle with setting boundaries because they worry about being misunderstood. They fear being called difficult, demanding, or selfish. They may have spent years putting other people's needs before their own and have become accustomed to staying silent when something hurts them. Over time, this habit can create resentment because their feelings remain unspoken while their emotional needs go unmet. The problem with avoiding boundaries is that people cannot respect limits they do not know exist. If someone constantly crosses a line and you never communicate that it bothers you, they may assume their behavior is acceptable. This creates a cycle where frustration continues to build beneath the surface. Eventually, emotions explode, not because of one incident, but because of countless moments that were never addressed. Healthy boundaries create clarity. They remove the guesswork from relationships. Instead of expecting someone to read your mind, you clearly communicate what matters to you. Whether it's honesty, communication, loyalty, personal space, or respect during disagreements, expressing your needs gives the other person an opportunity to understand you better. Clarity is one of the greatest gifts you can give a relationship because it prevents misunderstandings from turning into major problems. One of the most powerful things a woman can learn is that boundaries are not about controlling another person's behavior. They are about deciding what she will accept in her own life. There is a significant difference. Control focuses on changing someone else. Boundaries focus on protecting your own peace. You cannot force someone to act differently, but you can decide how you will respond when your standards are not respected. For example, if someone consistently speaks to you in a disrespectful manner, a boundary is not demanding that they become a different person overnight. A boundary is calmly communicating that disrespectful communication is unacceptable and choosing not to engage in conversations that become harmful. This approach protects your dignity without creating unnecessary conflict. Respect grows when people understand that your words have meaning. If you repeatedly state your boundaries but never follow through on them, people may begin to ignore them. Consistency is what gives boundaries their strength. When your actions match your words, others learn that your standards are real and deserve consideration. A woman with strong boundaries is not trying to prove her worth to anyone. She already knows her value. Because of that, she is not afraid to express what she needs. She understands that asking for respect is not asking for too much. She knows that healthy relationships require both people to feel heard, appreciated, and understood. The right people will never be threatened by healthy boundaries. In fact, they often welcome them. Boundaries create security because they establish clear expectations. When both people understand each other's limits and values, trust becomes easier to build. There is less confusion, less resentment, and fewer unnecessary conflicts. Everyone knows where they stand. Unfortunately, some people react negatively when boundaries are introduced. This usually happens when they have benefited from the absence of those boundaries. If someone is accustomed to having unlimited access to your time, energy, and emotional support without consideration for your needs, your new standards may feel uncomfortable to them. But discomfort does not mean your boundary is wrong. Sometimes it simply means the relationship is adjusting to a healthier dynamic. One important lesson every woman should remember is that boundaries reveal the true nature of relationships. When you start respecting yourself more, you quickly learn who respects you and who only enjoyed the version of you that never said no. Some people will rise to the occasion and meet your standards with understanding and maturity. Others may resist because they were comfortable benefiting from your silence. Either way, boundaries provide valuable clarity. Healthy boundaries also strengthen self-confidence. Every time you honor your own needs, you send yourself a powerful message. My feelings matter. That message gradually changes the way you see yourself. Instead of constantly seeking validation from others, you begin trusting your own voice. You stop feeling guilty for protecting your peace and start recognizing it as an act of self-respect. Relationships thrive when both people feel respected. Not one person carrying all the responsibility while the other takes without consideration. Not one person constantly sacrificing their happiness to avoid conflict. True connection happens when two people can communicate openly, respect each other's limits, and support one another's growth. At its core, a strong boundary is an expression of self-worth. It tells the world that you understand your value and expect to be treated accordingly. It is not about building walls around your heart. It is about creating a healthy space where love, trust, and respect can flourish. The people who truly care about you will not see your boundaries as obstacles. They will see them as a guide for how to love and respect you better. And when respect becomes the foundation of a relationship, everything else has a much stronger chance of lasting. One of the most painful experiences in any relationship is giving your heart to someone who only shows up when it is convenient for them. At first, their attention feels exciting. A sweet message appears after days of silence, and suddenly all the frustration seems to disappear. They make promises about doing better, being more present, and putting in more effort. For a moment, hope returns. You believe things are finally changing, But then the cycle repeats itself. They become distant again, communication fades, and you are left wondering where you stand. This pattern is what makes inconsistent behavior so emotionally exhausting. Many women stay trapped in these situations because they focus on potential rather than reality. They hold on to the good moments and convince themselves that those moments represent who the person truly is. While everyone has occasional bad days, consistency is what reveals someone's genuine intentions. Anyone can be attentive when they feel lonely, guilty, or afraid of losing you. The real question is whether they continue showing up when life becomes busy, when challenges arise, and when making an effort requires genuine commitment. The problem with rewarding inconsistent behavior is that it teaches people that they can give the bare minimum and still receive maximum access to your heart. If someone disappears for days, ignores your needs, and only returns when they want attention, but is welcomed back without accountability every time, there is little motivation for them to change. Human behavior often follows patterns. What gets rewarded tends to continue. This does not mean becoming cold or unforgiving. It simply means paying attention to actions instead of becoming overly attached to words. Words can be beautiful. They can make you feel special, desired, and hopeful. But words without consistent action eventually lose their value. A promise means very little if it is repeated over and over without being fulfilled. Real commitment is demonstrated through behavior, not speeches. One of the reasons inconsistent attention feels so addictive is because it creates emotional uncertainty. When affection comes and goes unpredictably, you begin chasing the next moment of connection. You start focusing on the occasional positive interactions rather than the overall pattern. It becomes easy to excuse behavior that you would normally recognize as unhealthy. Instead of asking whether the relationship is meeting your needs, you find yourself waiting for the next good moment to make everything feel okay again. A woman who knows her worth learns to look at the entire picture, not just isolated moments. She pays attention to patterns. She notices whether someone follows through on their promises. She observes whether their effort remains steady over time. She understands that consistency is not about perfection. Nobody gets everything right all the time. Consistency is about reliability. It is about knowing that the person cares enough to show up, communicate, and make the relationship a priority on a regular basis. Relationships require effort from both sides. When one person is constantly carrying the emotional weight, exhaustion eventually follows. If you are always the one initiating conversations, checking in, making plans, solving problems, and keeping the connection alive, it is worth asking yourself whether the effort is truly being matched. Love should feel like a partnership, not a one-person job. Many women fear asking for consistency because they worry about appearing needy. They tell themselves they should be more patient or understanding. But wanting reliability is not being needy. Wanting honesty is not being demanding. Wanting someone to match their words with actions is not asking for too much. These are basic expectations in a healthy relationship. When someone genuinely values you, consistency becomes a natural part of their behavior. They do not leave you constantly questioning their intentions. They do not disappear whenever things become inconvenient. They make an effort because they care, not because they are afraid of consequences. Their actions create security rather than confusion. Another important lesson is learning the difference between someone's interest in having you and their willingness to invest in you. Many people enjoy attention, companionship, and emotional support. They enjoy knowing someone cares about them. But enjoying your presence is not the same as being committed to building something meaningful. Commitment requires effort, responsibility, and consistency. Without those qualities, relationships often remain stuck in cycles of uncertainty. Rewarding inconsistent behavior often comes from a place of hope. You believe the person will eventually become who they promised to be. You remember their potential and imagine what the relationship could look like if everything improved. Hope can be beautiful, but it becomes dangerous when it causes you to ignore reality. Potential is not a substitute for effort. Promises are not a substitute for action. A strong woman learns to evaluate people based on what they consistently do, not what they occasionally say. She understands that genuine care reveals itself through repeated actions. She does not chase people who only show interest when it benefits them. She does not spend her energy convincing someone to value her. Instead, she pays attention to who naturally shows up with sincerity and effort. One of the most empowering decisions a woman can make is refusing to accept crumbs when she deserves a full meal. She stops celebrating the bare minimum. She stops making excuses for behavior that repeatedly hurts her. She stops confusing temporary attention with genuine commitment. Most importantly, she realizes that her worth is not determined by someone's ability to recognize it. Consistency is one of the clearest forms of respect. It communicates reliability, intention, and care. When someone consistently invests in the relationship, they create trust. They create emotional safety. They create a foundation that allows love to grow. Without consistency, even the strongest feelings eventually become unstable. At the end of the day, you deserve a relationship where effort is not something you constantly have to beg for. You deserve someone whose actions align with their words. Someone who values your presence enough to show it regularly. The right person will not leave you guessing where you stand. Their consistency will answer that question long before their words ever need to. One of the most powerful lessons a woman can learn is that her presence has value. The energy she brings, the love she gives, the support she offers, and the care she pours into the people around her are not things that should be taken for granted. Yet many women find themselves in relationships where their efforts become so expected that they are no longer appreciated. They are always available, always understanding, always forgiving, and always willing to give one more chance. Over time, what was once appreciated can start to feel assumed. That is why understanding the value of your presence is so important. When you constantly make yourself available, regardless of how you are treated, you unintentionally teach people that they never have to earn your time, respect your feelings, or appreciate your efforts. They begin to believe that no matter what they do, you will remain exactly where you are, not because they consciously want to hurt you, but because human nature often takes familiar things for granted. What is always available is often valued less than what requires care and attention. This does not mean playing games or using absence as a manipulation tactic. There is a huge difference between trying to control someone and choosing to protect your own peace. Walking away from disrespect is not about making someone miss you. It is about reminding yourself that your well-being matters. It is about refusing to stay in situations that repeatedly drain your happiness and self-worth. Many women spend years trying to prove their value to people who have already decided not to appreciate it. They give more love, more patience, more understanding, and more chances, believing that eventually their efforts will be recognized. While kindness is a beautiful quality, there comes a point where giving more of yourself does not solve the problem. Sometimes the issue is not that people fail to see your value. The issue is that they have become comfortable benefiting from it without reciprocating. One of the hardest truths to accept is that some people only realize what they had after it is gone. When your presence is constant, they may overlook the countless ways you contribute to their life. They may fail to notice the emotional support you provide, the sacrifices you make, and the effort you invest. But when that presence is no longer available, the space you occupied becomes impossible to ignore. This is why a woman should never be afraid to step back when necessary. Stepping back is not weakness, it is strength. It is the ability to recognize when your energy is being given to someone who does not value it. It is choosing self-respect over endless sacrifice. It is understanding that love should never require you to abandon your own needs. There is a common misconception that setting limits or creating distance means you care less. In reality, it often means you care enough about yourself to stop accepting treatment that hurts you. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is walk away from situations that repeatedly show you that your efforts are not being appreciated. Not because you want revenge, not because you want attention, but because you understand that your peace is worth protecting. A woman who knows her worth does not constantly chase people who are pulling away. She does not beg for attention, affection, or respect. She understands that healthy relationships are built on mutual effort. If she finds herself carrying the entire relationship on her shoulders, she recognizes that something is out of balance. Instead of exhausting herself trying to force someone to care, she redirects that energy toward herself. There is something incredibly powerful about a woman who can walk away from what no longer serves her. Not because she lacks feelings, but because she values herself enough to stop settling for less than she deserves. She understands that holding on to people who continuously disappoint her only delays the opportunity for healthier relationships to enter her life. Many people stay in unhealthy situations because they feel lost. They fear the emptiness that might follow. They fear the uncertainty of starting over. But sometimes the greatest loss is not losing another person. The greatest loss is losing yourself while trying to keep someone else. Every time you ignore your intuition, dismiss your feelings, or tolerate behavior that violates your standards, you move further away from the person you were meant to be. Protecting your energy requires courage. It means recognizing when a relationship is costing you more than it is contributing. It means understanding that not every connection is meant to last forever. Some people enter your life to teach you lessons about boundaries, self-worth, and resilience. Holding on to them beyond their purpose often creates unnecessary pain. The truth is that your absence should mean something because your presence means something. If you bring loyalty, honesty, kindness, support, and genuine care into a relationship, those qualities have value. They are gifts, not obligations. The people who truly appreciate you will recognize that value while you are still present. They will not wait until you are gone to realize what you meant to them. At the same time, your decision to step back should never depend on whether someone notices. The purpose is not to create guilt or force appreciation. The purpose is to honor yourself. Your peace should not depend on another person's reaction. It should come from knowing that you respected your own standards and protected your emotional well-being. Life becomes much lighter when you stop trying to convince people to value you. The right people will not need constant reminders of your worth. They will see it. They will appreciate it. They will match your effort with effort and your respect with respect. And if someone repeatedly fails to recognize what you bring into their life, you have every right to remove yourself from spaces where you are merely tolerated instead of genuinely valued. At the end of the day, your presence is a privilege, not an entitlement. The love, support, loyalty, and care you offer are meaningful gifts. Never feel guilty for protecting those gifts. Never feel guilty for walking away from situations that repeatedly diminish your value. When a woman learns to protect her energy and respect her own worth, she sends a powerful message to the world. She knows exactly what she brings to the table, and she is no longer willing to sit where she is not appreciated.